Did you hear that voice?
Yeah.
What is that? It's never done that before. That's creepy.
That's creepy.
Okay, this round table is being recorded. Zoom now has a voice. Anyway, so AI is always watching. So here we are for our round table. I think this is number 8. Thank you so much for being here, all of you, because this helps me give me a break too so I can compile information and take some more time to do that. So I really want to hear from listeners. So I've started doing roundtables. If you want to be on one, please let me know. I'm Annmarie Eber. We have Beverly here, and you probably know her. She's been on several of the previous roundtables. We have Eddie. We have Logie, also known as Logan. And I think Eddie's going to bring us some fascinating topics, and then we're just all going to jump in and whatever. We'll see what happens. We're going to see where this heads. So do any of you want to do a quick introduction, or would you rather just dive into it? I know, Eddie, you've got a channel. Logan has.
Yeah, my channel's Eddie432 Universal Truth. I got like 100 something videos over there. It's pretty new, but if you want to check it out, go ahead and check that out.
Yeah, there's some interesting ones that I've seen so far. So I'll put some links up. Eye of the Heart, Logan, that's still hard to find. The only thing I can find when I search is the what's his name? Ronald. I don't want to say what's his name, but Ronald. The one with him. So you got to click on that to get to you. It's like
if you type in Eye of the Heart with no spaces, it all comes up for some reason.
Does it? Okay, excellent. Eye of the Heart, no spaces. Beverly is you don't have any place that you're online, are you?
No,
Are you
I'm
taking
actually
clients? You're a psychotherapist. Are you taking clients?
I am. Yeah, so I'm a LCSW, a licensed clinical social worker. I specialize with addictions and families around addiction. Yeah, I do take new clients. You can find me on Psychology Today, Beverly Socie, last name spelled Socie. I am in Florida though, so you'd have to be in Florida to.
Oh, that's true. You can't do the online counseling.
I can, but you have to do it from where you are licensed.
Okay, yeah.
Or for only people who are in the state that you're licensed in. I guess is a better way to say it.
They got to control everything you're doing.
Oh, they do. And they charge you for controlling you. Yeah, I pay to be controlled, basically. Yep. Cancel that, but yeah, that's their system.
Eddie, anything you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, like I wanted to start talking about them entity clusters a little bit that I was trying to show you. But like there's, like I don't know if were you going to be able to get the picture up here or not?
I got some of them. So let me do a share screen. Go ahead and keep talking.
Well, they're like these hives. Like it's interesting that she talks about that she's into addiction, because like a lot of people, if you're into like addiction or you're taking in like types of preservatives, drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, especially, they're opening up these vortexes for these entity clusters. They're like these hives that have like thousands of entities inside of them, and they connect to you through like these type of like umbilical cords, and they come in all different types of sizes. But then like inside these clusters, they can like they're extracting energy out of you to like take in data to create their own little reality systems and generate their own little virtual games inside of them.
Right. But you can literally see those entities attached to people.
I mean, the one attached to my shoulder right there, that's the vid. See, I had to use a magnet and put that on my head, because I know that magnets, I started noticing for my abilities and my third eye being open, that like magnets would interact with these things. And I was like seeing them with my own vision all the time, but I tried to show people in my reality, tell people in my reality, and they weren't believing me. So I'm like, I'm going to start figuring out ways to show them. And I got these couple pictures, this one. And yeah, so I mean, see how it has like that umbilical cord thing attached to like the shoulder, and it can siphon things out of you through that. And what happens is too, like that size isn't just the only one. There can be ones that are like really massive. There could be ones that are microscopic. Like when you go to sporting events, right? These things are there. Like I made a video talking about how sporting events are human energy extraction stations. And it's just like a ritual they have, and they have types of hive clusters there like this. And they have all the people focusing at the center of the field. And when you stare at something for a certain amount of time, you get that subconscious energetic connection to their to your subconscious mind, and then they start shuffling in all this type of energy. And the only thing the people that are there that are seeing it as, they're just seeing like the bait. Like if you're going fishing and the fish only sees the bait, they don't see the fisherman. They don't see what's going on with the fish afterwards. They're only seeing what they're being baited there to do. But these things are attached to our technology too. And
Are you seeing this share? Is this the right picture?
Yeah, that's it. That's
you can
the
see
right
it.
one.
Okay.
And that's interesting.
Little clusters on the side there on the corner. They attach to your phones too, to like these umbilical cords. Like when I see people using phones out in public and stuff, I can see like this energetic like flow coming from like the phone to their forehead. And there's like these energetic hives on the other sides of them, and they just attach and they kind of siphon in information in and out. I don't know if you ever had any experience with closing portals and stuff. You get out of body and astral project, right?
I stay in body, but I
you remove
yeah,
you?
I stay in
so
and
like,
out at the same time, so I don't leave my body.
Yeah, you remove you. I know what you're saying. Yeah,
It's kind of like a remote view, but yeah.
Yeah, so these things are like, they're out there on these realms, and they attach to these things. So when you can do techniques where you take your hand and you circle it in a counterclockwise circle on your devices, because all the devices are black mirrors that can extract certain energy. Like they attach to mirrors too, but they like the black mirrors because we interact with them, and then they make subconscious connections. So every day, once in a while, it wouldn't hurt just to take your hand, do a counterclockwise circle on it, and then when you circle it and then you hold it first like a couple seconds, and then you release. And if your third eye's open, you'll be able to see these hives. You see these hives break off. They're like, and they detach. But see, when they detach, they kind of start shuffling around and trying to figure out how to get it back up. So you got to make sure your energy's up sometimes before you start doing this. Just like if you're in a house and they like now they say if they move stuff around or it gets if you rearrange or move stuff in the house, it kind of stirs up certain spirits and portals. It's the same thing will happen with this. So once you start messing with them, you got to make sure that your energy's in place. Like if you're viewing porn or masturbating or like doing any detrimental habits, you're going to be weak and not have power to like, shut these things down.
All right. So what are we seeing here above your head? Is that just something in the background?
That was a magnet, like a real powerful magnet. Like I said, the magnet, I noticed through my third eye being open, interacts with these things. Like kind of like crystals do a little bit, but the magnets are real strong. Not just like a fridge magnet. Like you need a powerful north and south pole magnet. And sometimes I'd put like crystals inside of them and stuff, and just
So
use different.
How'd you get this photo? Like, did you take it with some special camera or something?
It was just that phone in my hand. Yeah, it was just a regular phone camera. I might have changed the settings on it to like how you can go into settings and kind of change the color or whatever, just to like, and it would expose more stuff. But I haven't done it in a while because like I only was doing it at one point just to kind of just show people in my reality and stuff. But I'm sure if a lot of you started doing this now, you might start bringing certain stuff up. I don't know. But I just noticed me being around certain things kind of makes them visible. But
how do they interact with the magnet, Eddie?
It pulls them. They kind of magnetize to it. I noticed it like sticks them out sometimes because they'll be deeper within inside of you, and it kind of like brings them to the surface and pulls them out, and it kind of makes them visible too in a way sometimes if you have the magnet, because like the frequency of it changes the area. Just like if there's a high frequency person in an area, they're going to start noticing more different like things around them because the frequency is exposing them. Just like the way they try to do the chemtrails and block the sun because they're trying not to let this new energy in to let everything become visible. Yeah, and this thing was some kind of astral parasite bug. It was a type of like kind of like them astral spiders, but it something different. I don't even know what kind of name you want to call that.
Hang on a second, because I want to make sure which one we're looking at. Okay, so the bug is this one, or is that the other one?
That one's actually like a type of a pig spirit that I took a picture of right there in the bottom of the picture. Go up, like see that one at the bottom of it. Here? That was some kind of like that was some kind of pig or something, some kind of animal spirit right there.
I see ears. I mean, and like the face. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, let me go to the other one here.
And Eddie, I find it interesting that you said at sports games, because they serve a lot of alcohol during that time
Yeah,
too.
it's all just a ritual, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's when my third eye was open too, I can see like magnetic fields like around these stadiums and stuff. So when all them people come together, all your magnetic fields kind of combine.
Mhm.
A lot of them, they are probably clones and simulated beings, but any of the real ones too, it's interacting. Like,
So this is the bug.
yeah, that was a type of, yeah, some kind of astral bug parasite thing.
Oh my God.
Have you ever seen like astral spiders?
Yeah. I pull those off people a lot. Yeah, this is just nasty.
Them things drove me nuts for a while, man. I had to like,
So you just changed the settings on your phone to take that picture?
yeah, because I was feeling them on me. So I would like just start snapping pictures and stuff like that because I could feel them and see their silhouettes. So I knew stuff was there and I would just start snapping pictures and eventually they start coming up.
Yeah, because I've started to go nuts. Like I'll feel a little tingling or feel something here. And it's like, oh, what's on me? Okay.
I think that's interesting about the ball games too, because there's a whole psychology behind entertainment. And if you look at movies and how they do movies and the frame rates and how many scenes are per second, and you look into anything that requires you to not really be fully paying attention, they are literally bypassing your prefrontal cortex, which where all of your logical thinking comes into play, and a lot of other things too. So people at ball games typically are sitting there just watching, not just, and there's a lot of bypass happening in the mind.
There's also aggression.
Yeah, all kinds of different emotions they're riling up, and then different entities like different emotions. So they'll have different data sphere entity clusters there that can absorb different emotions. Like this one wants a certain rush, this one wants anger, this one wants anticipation, this one wants depression, and they're given all of that at these stadiums. You know, different types of. It's just a big play of emotions. And I broke down the word entertainment. I look at it like it's entering you into a tamed state permanently. That's how I view it.
Entering the mind and containing it. Yeah.
Interesting. Because if you think about even like concerts, music concerts, they make it so loud, which totally
Yep. So are ball games.
contains you.
Yeah, it's all like loud. So it's distracting. So do you think those games are like fixed in a sense of they're already programmed into the Matrix script, or even though I don't know if we have scripts running anymore, but or like, do these players know that these games are fixed, or what are anybody have any thoughts on that? Like,
what do you think the players know about it?
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
I think some of them do. I don't really think a lot of them are even true beings. I think a lot of them are type of cyborgs with mechanical parts. And they're not even, I think a lot of them are simulated beings, kind of like holographic beings. I don't think many of them are even true beings.
That makes total sense, because it's like, okay, so-and-so is supposed to win the game. Like, what was that Super Bowl? God, I can't, I don't know if it was the Giants. I can't remember the teams now, of course. But anyway, he's running and he catches this insane pass, like with one hand against his helmet. And it's like, because they had to win it and they like made a touchdown right at the last minute. So it's like, it's almost like they knew they had to win it. So they do some superhuman thing, it seems like. And it's like, well, how did that happen? If, how did they just manage to do that if this is fixed? But that would make sense if they're like these beings that can just do crazy stuff. Okay, we're supposed to win this, so throw that sucker down here. I'm going to catch it no matter what. That kind of makes sense to me.
And now another interesting thing is how they made sporting bets legal. And I know exactly why they did this. This is because before, when people would be watching the game, their emotions would only really be invested into one game a week, their team that they're watching. And the other games that they watch, they would just watch for just pleasure and not watch as like an emotional investment. So now when they make sporting bets legal, everybody's betting on then you have these like high time bettors and shit. They have emotions invested on every single game, because once you put money in it, then your emotions get way more involved in it. And it's more of an energy extraction thing. So then they can, It's another way to just get more people involved, more people watching. Like I always tell people in my reality, I don't really watch the TV to begin with, but always avoid watching it during these highly viewed football games, like or baseball games, or even when like the president's talking, because there's always stuff going on at that time you got to watch out for, because there's a reason that they're trying to tune so many people in at once and have you looking at this game. They make it seem like it's for money and stuff, but they don't. Obviously, we know they don't really. It's all about our energy and getting control over our mind.
Interesting. So yeah, some great thoughts there, everybody.
But they also, them things are at churches too. And I've seen this for myself because I tried to get programmed when I was younger by my family trying to take me to church, and I would see stuff at the church. And even up till a couple of years ago, recently, I would see all kinds of different, like they try to say that there isn't entities and stuff at the church. And that's totally false. They have them kind of hives that are huge at the church and the whole thing. And like I said, the people there are only seeing the bait, what they're getting. They're not going to like present some evil, like demonic presentation and make them scared to go. They're going to give them some nice thing to look at so they keep coming back. And then at the same time, I mean, we all notice now how they're just extracting our energy, but they're using these things to do it. And some of it goes back into the AI and some of it goes to the entities. And it's like a business. When they make money, they need to put some of it back into the business. If somebody in a business just made money and spent all their money, the business would die. So they have to make some of the money, take some of the energy from the humans. They put most of it back into the AI as an investment, and then they can take the rest of it and make different reality system generators or whatever their virtual realities that they're trying to make with it.
That's interesting because Sam and I were just talking about this yesterday with the churches. And no offense if you go to a church, because everybody's got different needs at different times. But like the Evangelical Council is like the group that sends down all the information to all the churches, doesn't matter what religion it is, if it's Catholic, non-denominational, whatever, but they send all the scripts out. And I feel like the stuff they say in those services are scripts and they're spells. So because I was at my niece's, I hope my family doesn't listen to this, her baptism. And I was sitting there and I'm like, all of a sudden I went, oh my gosh, that priest, whatever he was saying, I was like, he's stealing her soul. And this was like back in the 90s, where I was into this stuff, but not like I am now. But, and my husband at the time next to me was like, I think he just took the baby's soul. And I'm like, oh my God. Cause he was a fine husband. I mean, he was open and stuff. He was just on drugs all the time, but he was seeing it. And I'm like, oh man. So we go to the party afterwards. I'm holding the baby and I'm like, I'm holding an empty shell. Oh my God, there's no, and then like a month later, the baby died of SIDS. So I'm just wondering if they're doing something, because Sam said she was at a funeral and she's sitting there going, I can't listen to this. I can't listen to this. Like everything they were saying. And then she's like, no, you can't have me. Cancel, like everything the guy was saying. And she could barely sit there. So, or the priest or minister or whatever, I don't know what kind of church she was in, but I'm just wondering if they're like saying spells in there to get energy, to keep people coming back, or to even get their souls. Any thoughts on that?
I just look at it like it's just like some sort of like energy extraction station within the matrix that they just use to kind of like disempower you and keep you down. Like, what about the Holy Communion? I've heard stories about Holy Communion, right? How Holy Communion like came from, like, there's two different things that they would do it from. The one was like, they would drink the menstrual blood every month from the Holy Sacrament, but there's other ones that go into that they, like, these people like the Aztecs and the Mayans and stuff, the reptilians would demand up blood to them, and then they would pick somebody out of their tribe to do it, and this person would be like trained by the shaman to navigate the astral plane and different dimensional planes. So like they would pick them and they would look at, and they would want a virgin too, because the blood would be more pure. And then they would take it, this as like an honor, the virgin. And then they wouldn't be scared of this. So they'd go up and they'd sacrifice them on these like tombs and stuff. And they would, and then the people would drink their blood and eat them. And this would create an energetic connection to the person. So then when the person died, they go into the fourth dimension, and then they would be energetically connected through the blood sacrifice and the blood drinking to all their people in the tribe. And at that point, that person can consult with the leader of the tribe, and then tell them like future events, how to navigate their tribe the best, and they become like a god to that person. But the reptilians would also get their seraph energy out of it, and they would do these things. They would use these techniques with their blood to open up these things called ninth dimensions, like alternate pocket reality systems that they could like put people in and like make you think that you're in like your world still, but it's just some copy overlay pasted system that you're in. But that's how I look at Holy Communions as, and they're just replaying it because the churches are built on strategic spots on the grid, on like ley lines and focal points. So when they do that ritual, it puts off this energy into the grid. That's how I see it.
So yeah, so these all these rituals. So do you think like somebody loses their soul then? So that person that gets sacrificed, they're hooked in, so they're going to probably get reincarnated or thrown in another body and used again, like they're under their control now. But I don't know. What do you think, Beverly or Logan, or
Hold on one
think they're
second.
losing their soul here, or
I don't think that
are these religions taking their souls, or is it just as long as or is it like a temporary thing if they decide to leave the religion? Or
I think it's a multi-layered system. It's to bypass the person's any kind of logical reasoning to actually think about stuff. It gives people something to believe in that they don't have to actually logically think about themselves to see what's actually best for them. That's the first step. The next step is getting into this ritualistic stuff where they can, I believe they can pull soul aspects away, and this will incur a cycle over and over until that soul can consciously let go of these sort of satanic ritual abuses that have gone on for so long. I don't think that it can really pull somebody's soul away. I personally think that that's, if you really go into the thought about that, that's a heavy fear. And I don't think that that really does exist. I think that's something that is put out there to the worst case scenario. It's almost like dying isn't scary enough, but not only that, you're not going to have your soul left. I don't think that's true.
well, they want to disconnect us. Yeah, so that makes sense, like soul pieces, unless somebody deliberately sells their soul, but which it could be, they could still get it back. I mean, you're never going to permanently lose it, but they might have to wait till this whole structure comes down or something. But so that's, yeah, I kind of feel that too, that it's like just pieces. Maybe if you join a religion, they're just going to keep a piece of it, just like a traumatic experience would. But I don't know, Beverly.
I look at the soul more as like your solar energy, right? More than like your awareness. So they just kind of keep feeding off the solar energy of you. And like he said, they can't completely just take it from you, but we're generating it constantly. And as long as they can keep you down, they just keep feeding off of you. But it's not like they're going to devour you. And I believe we're eternal, and we can't be, and that's why we have so much attention by these other entities and stuff, because we're powerful generators. And as long as they can just keep using us, they can just keep siphoning energy out of us. But like, so you don't like, I know you like know that there is a 5D, but you don't like think, you don't want to do the ascension, right? You're saying like, you believe that like you want to stay here and fix this system. Like you think if you get put in the 5D that we get reincarnated back, it's like another trap or whatever.
Well, I think I think ascension, the true ascension is going back to your soul, like, because we're the projection and then leaving. But I think that there's these false ascensions like that, yeah, where they flip us into something else. And we may not have a choice. We may be heading in that direction where we're getting bumped up to a 5D experience because we as souls have not taken the reins or woken up enough from hypnosis to say, no, we don't want that one either. We're here, so let's change this to what we want it. But they're gonna yank us into some happy experience right now, and either disguised as hive mind or hive mind. So yeah, I mean we're here and we need to fix what this is, not get yanked into some other reality. I don't think that now, if it is a soul group visualizing a better reality for us, that's not one of these things that are created by these controllers, then great. Sure, let's go there. but I still want to make sure that I am in a position to get out, because yes, I agree they can't destroy our soul, but they can keep it trapped indefinitely. So, and I think this reality we're in right now, which I think is 4D, which I thought it was 3D, but I think it's 4D, is where we can get out for whatever reason. But I could be wrong about that. So I want to make sure that I stay connected. I think you can go at any time, but if you get bumped up in these other dimensions, I don't know if it's going to be so easy. Then I think you're going to be back in the cycle. But I don't know. That could be wrong, because I am like expanding further and further on this. So
It kind of depends, like how it depends what frequency them systems are that they're putting us into. Because they, like how they talk about in the Bible or whatever, like this New Jerusalem and how it's depicted as a cube. And the cube, if you know about the Saturn things, ties into that. So like you said, I don't feel like my awareness should be restricted to one reality system. I feel like that's an entrapment system that they're like when you're contained. I feel like when your spirit's free, you can move around, you can do what you want. You're not like get set with all these rules and limitations and do not enters. Because like, I don't know if you ever seen on the I've seen on the astral something really interesting, how they take like these on the astral, I'll see these big sacred geometry shapes and they spin in all these different directions. Like, and it's in different dimensions. So it doesn't look like ones you see here, but they'll be like spinning, and they take these astral human bodies and like herds of them, they'll just shuffle them in and they plug them into these systems. And they're just like, they get like filed in like, and they stick them around. And these systems put off certain frequencies that are connected to certain reality systems. And they plug us into these systems. And these are what the masses are mostly plugged into, from what I've seen anyway, how they get put into these different types of systems. And then that system that they're plugged into through that sacred geometry shape spinning, that frequency manifests into their physical form. Because then when they come from that system and they go from the thought, and then they condense into light, and then they start condensing into sound. Once they condense into sound, they take on that shape from that sacred geometry system that they're plugged into. And then that starts playing out in the formation of the cell formation in the womb. Because in the womb, then the two cells combine when the sperm and the egg combine, and they make that shape called the vesicus Pisces. And then from there, they keep dividing and make that shape the beginning stages of the flower of life. And that's because the flower of life systems connected into these Saturn systems and these reality generator systems that people's astral bodies are plugged into. So like if these 5D systems are running off of that too, like there's probably some that are good, some that are, it depends what system that you're getting plugged into. Just like in the Matrix, how they had like them pods that the main population was in. And the main population was in like this commercialized big time section. But then people that wanted to like come in through back doors had to do like their own little techniques that they come in through. And our spirit guides, I think, are doing that with a lot of the star seeds. Some of us are in these big plugins that are on the astral. We're coming in through different ways, different frequencies, back doors, all sorts of like through walk-ins, energetic braids that are, you know, and this is bringing, and that's why we're not tuning in. We're not tuning into this reality system's frequency as well. And we're kind of like rejecting the system, because these souls that have been plugged into these frequency shapes that are spin that are tuned into this system, they became kind of like domesticated souls over time, and they're kind of like obeying the system and they don't really question it.
Well, yeah, that's why we feel that, and they have told me you don't belong here because we've come in by different methods. But if they bump us up to 5D, which is what all the New Age is preaching about, and all the channelers are trying to push us to 5D, this is all part of their thing that they do every time there's an awakening. And I'm not going unless it's a soul group visualized. Our version of something, fine, but until I know what that is, I'm not going. But we might all get bumped into it. I don't know. But I'm refusing to go anywhere. I'm right here. I'm awake right here. So I'm not going to leave where I'm at, where I'm awake. I'm going to make this world better. And it's still going to be under control because the controllers have the control. But we can get the nicer controllers while we're here. But I think the ultimate goal is just to take it all down. That's why we're here. Why else would we have tried to come in here?
Well, that's what I was kind of wanting to ask you too. Do you think this system is salvageable, or do you think this system needs to just be taken down. Like, do you think this system was created first as a holographic playground for an experience that was hijacked? Or do you think it was just completely created as like a minnow trap, stolen entrapment system?
Possibly. But the more I look at it, I just keep feeling like it's a visualized hypnosis creation, and it's a copy of another world. So they looked at this world, and then they said to the soul group, okay, we want you to visualize this, so it's created, but we're just really projections. That's what I think. And I think it needs to be taken down for whatever reason, because I keep thinking maybe we can lift the overlay and find the real world under. There could be a conscious real world there, but I don't know. I just keep leaning more and more towards, we came here to take this whole thing down. I don't know if it's salvageable. That's a good question, but I think we can, if we have a choice in the changing of the guard here and who's going to be the new controller, we definitely don't want the ones that are controlling us now. So we want some other faction. And then, but if we get out of this and go to something much more pleasant, nobody's going to want to leave. They're going to go back to sleep again, which is what they want. I'm not going to 5D, but I'll take a reality where we have higher tech, like more advanced tech that will help heal us and that type of thing. I don't know, Beverly, you got any thoughts on any of this?
That was a lot. Okay, that was a whole lot. Let's go back to, hey, I just shared an article from Teen Magazine on Facebook the other day, giving teens instructions on how to use their menstrual blood. That's insanity.
Look, I worked at a store where the girl, she had definitely reptilian overlay or was possessed, but she was making a cake for this girl she hated because that was her competition. And I'm like, it was one of those, I forget what they call it, but it's got menstrual blood in it. It's like it's real dark color. There's a name for it. Black cake, I don't know, something. And I'm like, don't eat that cake, throw it out. So
Right.
yeah, it's all tying back to what Eddie's saying here.
Yeah, and you do have a lot of teenagers, I'd say people new in recovery. They like to play around with magical fixes, so to speak. So there's that. But anyway, the other thing I had written here when you all were talking about souls, are they taking the souls? Are they not? And the word hijack, like they hijack the souls, was coming to me. That I think the motive feels like it's anything to block the soul from knowing who they really are, like to sever the soul's connection to their creator. So they're more malleable, and they're more usable, and they'll stick around for the batteries that they see us as, to power their playground. Nice word for it. Okay, beyond that, I can't remember everything.
That's a good point, because it's the way I've been looking at it lately. The reality that I'm kind of living in is that the word that comes to me is wolf and wolf pack. And I think that the rulers, the CEO or CEOs, you'll say, of the earth, have had their claws, their paws inside of human society and the psychology of human beings for so long that every aspect of our society is completely run by the wolf, wolf pack. And as like personally, I do not think it's salvageable at this point in time. I think that everywhere you look, every turn, even the language that we use is a spellbinding language. It was created to be that way so that we're constantly running ourselves in circles. So when I look at the Matrix, I look at it as just a whole bunch of crap that's been thrown out for thousands of years, that's been put inside of this sphere of thought to confuse people. And really, the biggest thing that I always go back to, what is the lowest common denominator? What is the lowest, most simplest form of thought, and it's really just being, and everything that's really necessary for you as a soul and as a physical being is to take in this information that's coming to you from beingness. And I think that there's a lot more clarity that happens inside of that simplicity. But yeah, the matrix to me is just a whole bunch of stuff that they're just confusing everybody with. And really the bottom line is consciousness. And to me, it's a battle between consciousness and ego. And the ego is the hive mind, the collective hive, and consciousness is the collective conscious, which is connected to source and creation. And the more that we pursue consciousness and conscious awareness, I think is really the trick. And we'll begin to see that more and more people wake up and go down that route. We won't really have to do anything so much as individuals, except for to continue down that path, and we'll start to see the sunlight, so to speak, in a brighter and brighter way. I feel like I've explored all of these different avenues, like looking into language and psychology and all these different things, and it runs to the same thing, which is, man, I'm running down all these different rabbit holes. And what it's always come down to me was the simplicity of meditating, the simplicity of just being, the simplicity of just really being outside and just fully embracing and enjoying what I'm experiencing. And it ultimately comes back to, well, that's what it's all about. Everything else just seems kind of confusing, and it's meant to be that way. I mean, everything, from religion to the financial system, every system that we is totally built to screw people and to have the people pay for to be screwed. It's just like Beverly said at the beginning, it's like every system is set up against us, right? So it's like, how do you reverse that? It's like, you really can't reverse it, but we can put things into motion, into play right now on a conscious framework. And then these things, it's like the wolf needs to be exposed. The biggest thing the wolf does is pretend that it doesn't exist. It wants everyone to believe that he doesn't exist. And that is why we call it the invisible enemy. Because if something doesn't exist, it's not a threat. But the thing is, it does exist, and it's a very real threat, and it's what's really keeping everybody in this huge bind and very hypnotized. A lot of very, very hypnotized people that think what's going on is very real. And the first step is realizing that it's not, and to go down the rabbit holes, and then you have, you explore those areas. But you find that you'll come out of the rabbit holes, I think understanding, in my opinion, that consciousness is really understanding what consciousness is the way to go on a scientific and spiritual level.
Yes. Interesting. I named my therapy practice Conscious Life Counseling.
Awesome.
That's
Nice.
the name of it.
I can look you up. I'm in Florida too.
Okay. Yeah.
There you go.
I got to look you up. I'm in Florida also.
There you
All right.
go. Families uniting.
That's right.
So when you were talking about Saturn, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to talk about how, because you say how this reality is really an illusion and how we're being tricked into it. And I can explain what I see from my out of body experiences and astral projections, how this reality, what it looks like when you're outside the decoding process. Because some people get out of body and they're still in the decoding process in the reality, and they can still see what you would see through this body. But there's times that I get out, and what I'm seeing is, when I first seen this, it freaked me out. But when I get out, when I see humans from an out of body experience, I don't see them the way that I see them in a ball. And then whatever they're experiencing at that time is inside their cipher, and everything outside of it is just static. And as they move through their decoding thing, it changes inside their sphere, and it just changes over, and it kind of so people think they're in this world they think they are, but it's really not. But then the Earth too is because I made a video recently talking about the flat Earth, round Earth controversy, and I explained my perspective on it. From what I see from an out of body experience, Earth isn't even a planet. It is from the decoding process. But when you go beyond the decoding process, it's these data sphere virtual reality game systems that other beings go in, because we're a cell. And then the Earth system is a cell too. And then that system sits inside of other cells. And see, inside, it's just like a video game, how you'll have the PlayStation or whatever, and it's only that big. But on the screen, you can go through this whole layer of a city or a country or whatever you're doing at the time. And that's exactly how ours are working too. I mean, you're just going through different layers of information field, and you're decoding it as you go. And our Earth system sits inside of another sphere that's holding a bunch of other data spheres, and it goes inside to you too. That's why metaphysics teaches how we are a universe, because when you go into our cells are like individual reality systems too. It goes really deep each way, and then when you go into them, they have reality systems into them too, so the size becomes irrelevant, and it just splits off infinitely either way. But like I've been like on this trip, if like, see, I think when we get out of this system too, this virtual universe, I think the other universe, the organic universe, I think that's still a virtual too, but it's just not as diluted. I think we keep diluting ourselves more and more. I think we're deeper into these virtuals than anyone can ever imagine. People think like, oh, we get out of this and we're back in the organic universe. I don't even know if we're going to be able to find the organic universe. It's like in one of them hall of mirrors where there's just like a mirror in front and a mirror behind you, and it's just infinitely either way. I mean, like, so I think we're just buried in deep virtual games. I don't, so when we do get out, we will be in a virtual still, but it's just going to be the original virtual that might not be hacked. I don't know. How do you see that? Or do you think we're buried in them type of systems?
Yeah, I've talked about that in previous videos where they're burying us virtual inside of virtual. In fact, there's like a science now where you can reach your hands into a box and feel something, and then you look in the box and there's nothing there, but you're feeling stuff. So they just keep putting us into virtuals. But yeah, because that's what I was trying to get at. Maybe like when you were asking about how do we get back to the real world, is it outside the virtual universe? I've seen multiple virtual universes, and they're all cubes. So when the people talk about, and like David Icke and people, they talk about this Saturn and the cube and stuff, but Saturn is not really this planet that we're thinking about, neither is Earth. And so when you start exploring those words like Saturn and Earth and the origins, it's just all talking about a net. So we don't really even know what we're in, but they're giving us these visuals. Oh, here's a sun with round planets going around it. It's like, okay, none of us have real, because when I go outside and look, I'm seeing something different. So I think the images you're seeing, and I can be wrong, of course, but I think the images you're seeing are exactly what I'm seeing. It's like we're just projections. So the soul is hypnotized, because I always get, this isn't a dream or illusion, it's a hypnosis. The soul's hypnotized and projecting us and the images here. So we're just like, I don't know, light through a projector or
It's kind of like a PlayStation.
light body.
How the PlayStation is like the the PlayStation is like the body, and then the reality system is kind of like the disc. Either together, you don't really get nothing going on, but when you put the two together, it gets this decoding process that creates this holographic projection on a two-dimensional screen of a three-dimensional world. It's kind of the same thing that's happening with us. This is just a decoder that's decoding different layers of the grid system that they're putting in front of us.
Yeah, I think the key is to get back to the soul vehicle that's encasing your spark of consciousness, or your true self, your true being, and that knows the way out. But it's under hypnosis. But when it's awakened, and we awaken in the projection, and then I think we're going out. If we're awake, we're going out of here. But the real world outside of that, like you're talking about, yeah, that could very well be, it's another projection type world, but it's one that we actually chose to make, not that got hijacked and forced, and separation and spell language like Logan's talking about and stuff like that. I think that because I do feel like we're going to go back to where we really are. So we don't necessarily have to go to one of these consciousness worlds that we created, but we're going to go back to where we really are, where it is true freedom and you can go everywhere. Right now, you can travel inside the virtual universe, but I do think they have these universes in separate things, just like you've got something on your computer that I don't have on mine. But so they can communicate with each other maybe, but they can't really, they're not the same. It's like separated. So I think we have to get out of that entire thing. And it's obviously false reality because they're cube shapes, and it's not natural shapes, or infinite or flowing. But I don't know if we can really understand what true reality is like in this place we are with, the consciousness, the access to consciousness that we have. I think if we return to soul, we'll have that consciousness come back to us. I don't know. What do you think?
it's hard to understand, because even when you get back to the organic universe, it's like I like to subscribe to the belief that that had to always existed. But then it's like you either come up with these two options. Did the organic universe always exist? And like, or did like something come from nothing, which is really hard to understand too. Both are hard to understand. Did something always exist, or did something come from nothing and then something formed in there? And then we started, once we got like formed technology and life formed that made this these systems, or did consciousness always just exist and then started manifesting these reality thought forms, and then eventually technology evolved inside of them systems, and then they started making these virtual ones. Either or, I mean, it's amazing either way. I don't know.
Something that came from nothing, I think, is describing AI worlds and replicas, because they are nothing, and they came from nothing, and they are nothing, and they go back to nothing. But there are organic worlds, but then beyond that, you're everywhere. You're an extension of creator. So it's like, I don't think that's maybe something we can understand at present, but I think you will have an understanding when you go back to the soul. So you can certainly go back to this organic world, because I think they did have to have something to copy, and then turn it into whatever they wanted. But there's so much more beyond that. That's just, I think, an organic world, that's a pleasant place to be, could be created by creators. It could be an extension of their consciousness. Here's this world, isn't it lovely? And they took that and they said, okay, let's make it miserable. But yeah, I don't know if it's something we can grasp at this point. It's just more of just knowing the general ideas, but maybe
We
more.
came a long way though, you know, compared, I mean, knowing what we know now and seeing what we're seeing, I mean, we're onto something at least. But
yeah, we might actually be able to understand it at some point, but certainly a piecing together a puzzle where you can't really even see what the puzzle is because you don't have enough pieces yet. But
Well, if we are the creators, because we know AI does not create, we are the creators.
us, the
yeah, I
projection,
believe
maybe not, but our soul definitely. I think we're the projection, and we're just making choices because we're the video game. We're inside the video game. So we didn't create the video game, the soul.
We're
did.
not only making choices, we're assigning the meaning to what's being presented.
Yes, or accepting the meanings they gave us for it.
Well, we choose that.
Right.
Because we can also, if we can accept, we can reject.
Right. That's, I think
So this comes back to being in the present, being in the moment, being in body and just being to, otherwise, I mean, they overwhelm us with choices. We get overwhelmed with choices. So we rush through some. I mean, look how complicated they make just signing up for a website, you know, to get your groceries delivered. There's a whole fucking contract, you know, policies, privacy policy. If you read all that stuff, you would just be, it'll suck up most of your life force, reading all the things that we sign before signing them. And that's by design also. But I'm just saying that if we combine with our soul, we are the creators.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's a good way of saying I'm not going anywhere. No being suggesting anything to me. I'm not listening. I'm already here. I obviously came to right here for a reason, to do something, and I'm not going anywhere unless I feel like, okay, yeah, I think I'm ready to go somewhere. But that doesn't mean everybody else can't go to 5D or whatever, but I'm not going anywhere.
Exactly.
You
But it
feel like
also means
your mission is here. You know, if you feel like that, there's obviously something that you're trying to accomplish here.
I also feel
yeah,
that
I think all of us that are awakening, we came in to, I think it's to shut this thing down and to help the souls that are trapped here is what I think. And that's how we came in, like you were saying, Eddie, through all these little cracks and ways to get in, which is not the normal way, where you get sucked in and trapped. And then they're like, well, you don't belong here. You're a virus in the system. And they're trying to constantly screw with us and get us out of here.
Yeah, and like you said before, you brought up how like they do these frequency attacks that try to make us want to leave the system. And I've even had times of like attempts on my life through certain car accidents, through certain things. And like, I think they try to like eliminate you from the system. And at that point, either you get shifted on a different timeline set of the system, or they can see that you're not, because they try to like mark you and find out who these beings are too and stuff. Because once you come in, you kind of get this radar and they're on you immediately. And they try to do whatever they can to take you off your path. But eventually we awaken to who we are. And then once we learn our mission and start treating ourselves right and doing the right things, then we become a real serious threat to them.
Yeah, they targeted us. That's like targeted individual, but they've targeted a lot of us that before we even were born, and however many lives they put us through, if that really happened. But yeah, totally agree. And it's just coming back to what Beverly said with choice and choosing not to leave or not to allow them to harm you. So then they try to find more creative ways, because they've done plenty to me. Logan, any thoughts on that, or do you have to go? Because I think
No, I'm good. I do have a thought on that too, also with the choice. And this is another little trick that the wolf likes to play, is that, like Beverly said, they give you lots of choices. All the choices lead to their benefit ultimately. So what is actual? It's like you have to, this is the importance of logical thinking, because what they do, they drive you to the left or they drive you to the right. And it's the left is like, you can look it up. What's left brain? What does left represent? We're talking random, random events, coincidence, it's no free will in this area. Things that happen, are just happening as they happen. And then we choose how to do it in the moment. And then you have the right, which is like the religious fanatical idea of, well, I don't have free will. It's God's will, and God will do anything that he wants to do. I'm just here. Again, there is no free will. They do everything they can to pull you into one of these categories, because they really don't want you being a logical thinker and understanding how the natural, what we know as the natural ways of the world operate, and that we are truly a free will being. We have complete free will. They're doing everything they can to convince you that you don't. So where does the real choice come from? And it comes from, in my opinion, understanding a deeper spiritual aspect of your being. And there's lots of different ways we can do this through meditation and this kind of thing, but really logically processing. And this goes to the trivium quadrivium, principle, which is you're taking in information, you're logically processing it, and then you have a rhetoric that is built upon something that hasn't been fed to you from an exterior source. It's all coming from the interior processing unit, which is you. So anyways, yeah, so where does the choice come from? We do always have a choice. And if we can step out of the fear paradigm, which is the big tool they use also, they get everyone all afraid about everything, where we can't think rationally for ourselves, and we're looking for a savior. We're looking for something. We go into a book, we go into a Bible, we go into what somebody else is saying and try to find solace that's there. But then again, we are making a contract when we do this with this person or with this book or with whatever, that here you go, I'm going to sign this contract. Like Beverly said, why do they make you sign all these contracts? They're getting everybody psyched into everything's a contract. Well, it's not. No, it doesn't have to be contractual. You are free will. You don't have to sign any contract. This is why I see the talents of this system are so enveloped around everything. It's hard to decipher what's real and what isn't, but really the bones of what is really real is your consciousness. If you're going to explore anything, go inside of yourself and find out how to do that. And there's lots of different ways to do it, but this is where the real truth comes from. The real choice that we actually make comes from the inside, comes from our spirit, comes from creator. It comes from source that our spirit and soul is connected to. So anyways, that's
yeah, I agree totally, because I've said you got to have two things: intuition and common sense or logic, and that's how you operate around all this. And they go on, like you were saying earlier, ego is the hive mind, where a lot of people think ego is just, oh, I'm wonderful, I'm this, I'm that. Well, yeah, we are wonderful, and Sam has talked about that, and I was going to share some of that on another video, but yeah, if they can get you into fear or into any negative emotion, they can form a contract. So any of that seeking, oh, I need this book, is fear. I don't know, I'm not worthy, because they always tell you you're not worthy, you're not big enough, you're not strong enough, you're not this, you're not that, so you need this. And so that's kind of a fear emotion or an insecurity or a not worthy. So boom, you're in a contract. So do we have a couple minutes to go into, like extra minutes to go into, because Eddie, you had talked about on a video about star seeds getting trapped in time, or in some
On false
kind of,
timelines.
yeah.
Yeah, how like, well, when you
Can
come
do like a
in,
brief thing of that, or is everybody got time for that? A couple minutes?
I
Okay.
could kind of go into it. I don't care.
Yeah, that
But
was super interesting. If you can share some of that and,
it's been a while since I made that video, but I'll try to do my best. Like when you come in, they can kind of like, so when you come in, you're coming in on your mission, like we talked about. So their goal too is to kind of like try to pull you off of like your timeline. They can kind of come in like how I talked about before, how we're in like these data spheres that are just being decoded inside of a static information field. Well, they can come in certain entities and they can do like these copy and paste to your like they can copy and paste your reality cipher, and then they can kind of transfer it into like an alternate timeline, and then have you just interacting with a bunch of like puppets, and you won't even know it. Sometimes then people will all of a sudden be like living their life and then just kind of feel like something's missing, something's not right, and they don't understand, but it's mostly because you got put onto some alternate timeline or got copy and pasted into some wrong thing. And right now they're trying to kind of condense all these timelines, like the Hall of Mirrors, one in front, behind. It just got divided, and they're trying to like take them down and kind of condense us back and make us more concentrated at the moment. But I mean, there's like these other timelines I've seen too. What's the one you talked about? The Meadows. What's that called?
I think it's Asphodel Meadows. That's in mythology.
Yeah, I don't know all the mythology names for it, but I seen from my experiences getting out and accessing different timelines. There's multiple different timelines, and these elite and stuff that are in our reality system, they don't like they don't stay in here. They just come in here when they're trying to like accomplish something. Usually you're getting left behind like a shell placeholder, and like they can come out and there's like different sections. Like I know how you said this is actually the fourth, but I call it different sections of the third dimension, like different sets that are like way more harmonious. They're tuned properly. Like this set that we're in, they tuned it off tune on purpose. So it has like this static it's like listening to the radio, but then like having like static interference in the back. Like you don't get that nice crisp refreshing noise. You just get like this interference pattern, and people feel that in their body and through their psyche and stuff. But these other reality systems, like you said, the Meadows and stuff, these are tuned more perfectly, and they're still within our dimensional system, but they're just way more harmonious, where they can have like more, they can have more freedom how they pick their reality and different things like that. Some people actually come into here from them kind of systems and stuff, certain elite, they come into here just to have like sex and stuff with certain like subs, and like I call them like subs or shell placeholders, like the beings that don't have consciousness in it, that are just like a puppet, you know. But they do that. So I don't really like, because I look at like sleeping with them kind of beings as like something's wrong with that. That's what I was taught by certain my guides and stuff. You don't really want to mess with them kind of sleep and get in relationships with them kind of beings, because they just drain you and they're attached to different entities, and there's a lot going on. But yeah, but they can copy and paste our realities, stick them on false timelines, and like the
Okay,
the
that's
reptilians
super.
would call it the ninth dimensions.
That's super, super interesting, because I wrote out like these notes that I had on the timeline and how it ends and how they're just keeping us in a loop, because they can't control the future right now. But this makes total sense to me, that they can also take you and copy paste you and put you in the past, because they're trying to keep us from getting outside the timeline, out of their control. But so that's super interesting to me.
They have clones of us.
So involved.
They can connect it with clones too, through the same copy and paste method. They have clones of us on different reality systems
Oh,
too,
interesting.
that they can connect, and then they can like do stuff to the clone, almost like a high-tech voodoo doll, and then makes things happen to them and stuff. So there's a lot going on. I mean,
There's a lot. The more complicated you get, the further you get away from truth. Truth is simplicity. But okay, so Beverly, thoughts on any of that, or any final things you want to offer?
I think too, like even in regards to timelines, you know, we're trained to see timelines as linear. And if I'm in the present, back to the present, just in the moment, and it's a lot harder than what it sounds. I mean, that it takes an effort to be in the present, and to notice when you're out of the present and then back into the present. But even then, it's like almost like all timelines are happening at the same time. They're like, Eddie, you said it with the radio station. All the channels are playing at the same time. It's which one are we tuned into? And I don't even know why I said all that, but there.
Love it.
That's what I want
Love
to
it.
say.
Anybody else? Any final thoughts? Any?
You read my mind there, Beverly. It's exactly what I was thinking is that when we look at real logically or simplistically what infinity is, it's basically it's a continuous revolving moment. So when you try to stick time inside of anything, well, we'll say you put time inside of infinity, then it becomes all one moment, So we try to look at our life looping and stuff. It's real, everything's really occurring exactly in the one single moment, So yeah, it's a matter of what we tune into. What's the frequency? It's like the TV station. It's like, what channel do you want to watch? It's like you want to, you turn it to the channel, you turn it to the frequency of which you're going to tune yourself into. And then we come back to consciousness and conscious awareness. How do we become aware of other channels? And I think that this is done through, like Eddie's talked a lot about this stuff. The reality that he is talking about is a very deep and aware reality of he's seeing all this stuff. He's seeing all these multi-tiered layers. His awareness is very broad, and because he's allowed himself to go into this consciously to see these other channels that are playing. I think that's an important part of our evolution as individuals and as a collective consciousness as we begin to explore more and more channels. And they're all available. It's just of putting the work and the effort into understanding how us as an individual can become more consciously aware of these other frequencies. And we'll find, like, I know all of us have been there. I know it because I've had visions of this beautiful worlds. Like, I'm like, I've lived there for long periods of time where there isn't any, like any control over anything. Every being there is so heightened that there isn't limits. There's not limits to anything because it's not even a word. There is no, like, you can or can't do this. There's no contracts, nothing. Everything's already built in. And I have fragments of this in my consciousness, so I know it exists, and then coming here and to see the way this world operates, it's like, whoa, this is just insane. It's like to see the tyranny that's been happening for thousands of years. It's like, what is this place? Like, but we're here for a reason, and we're here to talk about this kind of thing and at least bring awareness to the idea that it's a full consciousness arena that we're playing inside of here, and that are real, in my opinion, our true purpose in life is to discover, to be explorers and to be warriors into discovering these frequencies. And this is how we collectively go higher. So I don't really subscribe to the new age 5D stuff really, but I do prescribe to our mission, or our purpose, so to speak, is the discovery of these other frequencies and higher frames of consciousness.
Awesome.
There's been other reality systems. There's reality systems that, like, we've lived in outside of these systems that, like, that were so, like, pure that you could have watched the whole thing, like, with, like, the whole world watching, like, recorded the whole life and watched all the emotions, all the thoughts, and not even be embarrassed about it. It's not until you get into these systems you get kind of corrupted and things, you do kind of shady shit.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear, Eddie, if you ever come up with any thoughts on how to prevent ourselves from getting copied and pasted. But
you have to keep your energetic bodies. You have to keep your energetic bodies, like, together. And that's why having these remote viewing abilities, or like starting to get out of body, is important. And this is happening too through, like, mechanisms in the universe, like the sun is turning more white, letting more energy in. I don't know if any of you notice when you're outside in the sun now, things look more pixelized and digital. It's just more vibrant than they usually do. But this is because this new energy is coming in. So they're going to make fake clouds, do the chemtrails, do whatever they can to kind of block these things from coming in. But they got, like, other stuff set up too. Like, they got a whole interdimensional network set up through humans, like the true human beings, where they travel off of our energetic bodies. Like, they can take your energetic bodies and move them to different parts of the multiverse, and it connects through these energetic umbilical cords through your chakras, and then they can make kind of portals that, like, all these interdimensional frequency jumper beings travel through, and they make you seem like, oh, you're little, and then people start waking up and seeing all these interdimensional beings and being like, oh, how do they do that? like acting like you're small, like they're using you to do that.
Yeah,
Like,
they do that
need
with
your-
I was gonna talk about that too, with the giants and stuff, that they come in as giants to make us feel small, but so I think, just, I don't know if people necessarily should be astral traveling. I think you should always stay in your body. You can travel and stay in your body at the same time. Because I just think it's important to stay where we are and monitor, but yeah, that could be more, given more credence to removing the chakra connections and stuff. I mean, there's just so much more we could keep on going. This has been a great discussion.
I did want to say one more thing, and that is that, labels are very effective in keeping us small when we put labels on ourselves or when we allow others to put labels on us.
Yeah, good point.
So just saying.
We're not small, trust me. We
We are not
vast,
small. We are
vast
very
beings.
powerful.
Yep, and that's not ego, that's just truth. So
That's right.
the ego's the hive mind, like
Yes.
Logan put so well. Well, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, this was wonderful.
Yeah, thank
Thanks for
you.
having
This
me.
is awesome.
That was great.
Yeah, so taking your time to like just put some information out there for other people to think about and give feedback on. So we'd love comments and feedback on everything we talked about today, and we will wrap her up. So I'm going to shut off record here.
Okay.